As of 19th of September 2023, the Online Safety Bill passed its final parliamentary debate and is now ready to become law. If you don't live in the United Kingdom, you might think that this is not aimed at you. I challenge you to watch anyway. These type of laws can come to your country as well. And the UK is just setting a precedent for the rest of the world. Hello everyone, my name is Roxana and today we have an important and timely topic to discuss. The Online Safety Bill in the UK. This legislation is generating significant debate and controversy and is aiming to create a safer online environment for all of us. In this video, we're going to take a look what the bill's intentions are regarding safety in the digital space and how private company, privacy organizations, and cybersecurity experts responded to this legislation. And then we're gonna end with my personal opinions about it. This video will touch on the current status of the bill and its current version as of October 2023, when I'm filming this, like right now. Before we begin, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I am not a lawyer, I just work in IT, and I'm very passionate about cybersecurity. I read the entire bill, and from a cybersecurity point of view, this video outlines what I have personally found. In here, I'm giving my own opinion from a person that works in the IT industry and lives in the United Kingdom. As I said, I have a lot of personal opinions about it, which I will dive into at the end of the video. But first, let's explore what the Online Safety Bill is setting out to do. In April 2019, the then Digital Minister Jeremy Wright published a document called Online Harms White Paper. So it was a white paper. This paper outlines issues regarding illegal and harmful content online and the desire for the UK government to make the UK the safest place in the world to go online. There is a reason why I'm putting these quotes in. This white paper sets out to keep social media companies responsible for the way that their proprietary technology affects all of the users, me and you included. From numerous reports of self-harm and child porn, that's what we're gonna name it, because of YouTube algorithm and terms of service, to even the Cambridge Analytica incident, scandal, whatever you want to call it, that happened in 2016, there are a plethora of issues that need to be addressed at the legislation level. I put it in the description of this white paper if you want to read it in full and so on. It's an interesting read. In 2021, the first draft of the Online Safety Bill was published, and in March 2022, the bill was introduced to the Parliament in the UK. Since then, it has gone through the House of Lords, House of Commons, and is right now under royal assent, which is due to be scheduled yet. It hasn't been scheduled yet as of today, end of October, when I'm filming this, but it's due to be scheduled, and as far as I'm aware regarding British politics, this is just a formality that every law and every bill has to go through the royal checking, I guess, but most likely if it's gone through the entire thing, at the end of this is just a procedure. It won't necessarily make or break the law. It's just a procedure that happens. 99% sure that this bill will become law. Now, regarding the main intentions of the bill, what are they? Well, to begin with, it seeks to provide a safer online environment, especially for children and young users who are more susceptible to online harms. It also emphasizes user empowerment. What does this mean? It proposes measures to empower users. It's a very interesting word to read in a bill, empower, anyway, to empower users to have more control of their online experience. What it means is, technically, adult users, will have more control regarding what they want to watch and what they don't want to watch. This includes giving users the ability to easily report harmful content and access clear information about platforms' content moderation practices, like terms of service. And under user empowerment duties, this is what it's been outlined. It's a duty to include in a service, to the extent that is proportionate to do so, features which adult users may use or apply if they wish to increase their control over content and which the subsection applies to, which is user empowerment. It also establishes a regulatory framework to hold online platforms accountable for the content that appears on their platforms. This includes social media networks, search engines, forums, and even messaging services. These platforms will be required to take appropriate measures to mitigate and remove harmful content, restrict users' access to content in general, and add warning labels to any non-child appropriate content. Online platforms will also need to take proactive steps to identify and address harmful content, protect minors, and ensure that their platforms are safe for everyone, especially vulnerable users. The platforms will also have to ensure that users see only age-appropriate content, and, as I said, they have to remove any illegal content, reported or non-reported. This is all under the concept of duty of care that will hold private companies responsible for the content that they host on their own platforms. And if companies don't comply, Ofcom will have the powers to issue fines for up to £18 million, or around $22.3 million, or 10% of the company's annual global turnover. We don't really know who makes these decisions yet. Well, Ofcom makes these decisions, but we don't really know how are these decisions being made. TBC, how it's actually being decided. I mentioned Ofcom. Who is actually being in charge for all of these things? The organization in charge for dictating the standards for everything that I've just read so far regarding the intentions of this bill is an organization called Ofcom. Ofcom, or the Official Communication, is the regulatory authority for communications industry in the United Kingdom. It is an independent regulator and competition authority that oversees various sectors within the communication industry, including telecommunication, broadcasting, postal services, and many other more. But these are the main ones. This regulatory body will have the authority to issue fines, as we've discussed, block access to websites, and even hold senior executives personally liable for breaches of the duty of care that is set out in this bill. According to the bill, Ofcom would set out the standards for each provider on how to implement each aspect of the bill. They also have a few duties and a few regulations themselves that they have to abide by. The first one is the duty to protect users' rights to freedom of expression within the law. And when I mean the law, it's the duty of expression set out in Article 10 of the Convention and the right to respect of a person's private and family life. Home and correspondence set out in the Article 8 of the Convention, which is a different law already put in place. They also have a duty to provide exemptions for any providers, but also has the power to remove these exemptions at any time. This is what it says in the bill. They may provide particular descriptions of providers of user-to-user services which are exempt for any of the duties set out in this section and may revoke such exemption. Regarding the exemption, the only thing that they have to do is publish details of any exemption or revocation under section 7, which is the one above what I'm reading, including reasons for the revocation of an exemption. So they have to have a reason to take it back, but they can provide exemptions for particular user-to-user services. This is kind of the summarization of what the bill in its entirety is planning to do in general. What are the responses from the world regarding this? The responses have been fairly widespread. On one side, supporting the bill, we have the Technology Secretary Michelle Donnellan? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Saying, quote, "I'm immensely proud of what we have achieved with this bill. Our common sense approach would deliver a better future for British people by making sure that what is illegal offline is also illegal online. It puts protecting children first and enabling us to catch keyboard criminals and crack down on the hideous crimes they seek to commit." The NSPCC, which is the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, Chief Executive Sir Peter Wanless said, "At the NSPCC, we hear from children about the completely unacceptable levels of abuse and harm they face online every day. That's why we have campaigned strongly for change alongside brave survivors, families, young people and parliamentaries to ensure the legislation results in a much safer online world for children." Even a former Love Island competitor, star, I don't know, I don't watch Love Island, she's also campaigning for women's rights and so on, has said that violence against women and girls is so common, with 1 in 3 women in the UK having experienced online abuse or harassment. This bill is going to help bring this to an end by holding social media companies accountable to protect women and girls from online abuse. And of course, this is what Ofcom had to say when the bill passed the House of Lords.
Today is a major milestone in the mission to create a safer life online for everybody across the UK. And at Ofcom, we're really excited to get started and to begin to implement these new laws. We feel very privileged to have been given this important role. So what you'll see from us in a few weeks' time is our first codes, our first standards that we expect tech firms to put in place so that children are protected online and so that we're all protected from things like fraud and other illegal activities.
But there is also a plethora of concerns coming from multiple places, and spoiler alert, from me as well. In an article in the BBC, lawyer Graham Smith, author of a book on the internet law, said that the bill had well-meaning aims, but in the end it contained much that was problematic. And this is one of my favorite quotes in this entire video. Quote from lawyer Graham Smith: "If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, this is a motorway." Silky Carlo, director of Big Brother Watch, which is a UK civil liberties campaign group, has described the bill as dangerous.
But what the bill does is effectively makes these private companies private police. So they're adjudicating what's unlawful. And actually there is no law enforcement process. So it's not like they see something that's concerning that looks like it's very much unlawful. And there's plenty of it online. We all know about child sexual exploitation and really serious issues. It's not like what the bill does is create a process whereby that's forwarded to the police and the police work the platforms. And no, it's kind of like a shove it under the carpet approach. So the companies have to deal with it themselves. They have to police it themselves. They have to monitor these networks that have billions of communications, find this stuff, get rid of it, or even prevent people from seeing it. So already encrypted services like WhatsApp, for instance, send hundreds of thousands of tips to a child exploitation helpline.
Do they? Oh.
Yes. We all know it's a bit like when we have panics around other types of sexual violence, which are merited. But when you actually look at how well reports are investigated and policed, it's often very, very poorly. So we have more data than ever on child abusers because of the internet, because it's so visible, because it's out there, and there's simply too much for them to police. So I disagree that there's a problem with being able to find where this stuff is going on. There's absolutely masses of it out there, and it's under-policed. And I would have taken all of that premise that was used in the bill so much more seriously if there were anything in there about increasing police capacity to investigate and prosecute these crimes, about how they work with tech companies to do it. There isn't. All there is we basically need a key to see everyone's communications.
70 organizations, cybersecurity experts, and elected officials have signed an open letter last year against the bill. The letter outlines the dangers that this bill poses to privacy and end-to-end encryption. I have a few quotes for you, but I will leave a link to it down below if you want to read it in its entirety. It's a short read, it's not a long read, but I think these quotes are very punchy and straight to the point. Undermining end-to-end encryption, this is what it says in the letter. Undermining end-to-end encryption or introducing content scanning obligation for private messages will also remove protections for private citizens' data. Opening a backdoor for scanning also opens a backdoor for cyber criminals intent on accessing our bank account details, private messages, and even the pictures we share online privately with family and friends. We all deserve the protection that the end-to-end encryption provides, but the most vulnerable in the society, children and members of at-risk communities, need it the most. And to further on, another quote of this bill. Undermining protections for end-to-end encryption would make UK businesses and individuals less safe online, including the very groups that the Online Safety Bill intends to protect. Furthermore, because the right to privacy and freedom of expression are intertwined, these proposals would undermine freedom of speech, a key characteristic of free societies that differentiate the UK from aggressors that use oppression and coercion to achieve their aims. Even the Internet Society has commented on this by saying that such scanning risk, which I'll explain in a minute what does that mean, scanning risk creating vulnerabilities for criminals and other attackers to exploit, that it could eventually lead to the monitoring of other kinds of speech. The government disagrees with this, with saying that the bill does not represent a ban on end-to-end encryption, nor will require services to weaken encryption. But without an existing model of how such monitoring can coexist with end-to-end encryption, it's hard to see how the law could satisfy critics. And I want to explain a bit what the Internet Society means when they say about scanning risks and not weakening, and then what the government says regarding not weakening end-to-end encryption. So, for the people that do not understand the technology behind this, what it's trying to say, which is very contradictory to me, the government is trying to say that we don't want to weaken end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption is very good. We love end-to-end encryption. We think that it should never be undermined. But at the same time, we want to be able to scan for harmful or violent use of content, things like messages or pictures, or things like enticing online. What happened to like Cambridge Analytica situation. They want to be able to scan these type of things. But WhatsApp, for example, it's an end-to-end encryption service. It's a user-to-user end-to-end encryption service. And the government is saying, we don't want to weaken these things. No. But what we want to do is we want to be able to scan them at the same time. How is that possible? In my opinion, from what I know so far about technology, and I might be wrong, let me know down below if I am, but I might be wrong. In my opinion, the only way that you can keep end-to-end encryption in transit, so while it's being sent online, and also scan these messages, if you scan those people's phones. So what the Internet Society is trying to say here is this bill going to enforce private companies? Because by the way, everybody's phones are produced by private companies, and whoever lives in the UK is using a private company device. Like, this is produced, everything that I'm filming on is produced by a private company. This is produced by a private company. I mean, the same private company, but you know what I mean? It's like Androids are produced by private companies. Everything technology-wise right now is produced by a private company. I have other opinions about that, but anyway, we're gonna move on from there. So they're going to force private companies to introduce some sort of scanning application, software, whatever you want to call it, on each and every one of our devices. That's what the Internet Society is alluding to. Moving on. Speaking of private companies, they have also not kept quiet. In a BBC article, WhatsApp and Signal, which is also another messaging app, have threatened to refuse to comply with powers in the bill that could be used to enforce them to examine the contents of encryption messages for child abuse material, which I've just talked about. However, apparently, following statements made by the government, which they're just statements as far as I'm aware, nothing ended up in the bill regarding all these details. Meredith Whittaker, which is the president of Signals, has said that they were more optimistic than they were at the beginning when they started engaging with the UK government. She said that it was imperative that campaigners press for a public commitment that the unchecked and unprecedented power in the bill to undermine private communications would not be used. Speaking of unchecked and unprecedented power, who has this power? I'll give you the answer. Ofcom. Ofcom has this unchecked and unprecedented power. They are here to set the rules, set the fines, enforce the rules, enforce the fine, and even criminalize CEOs and higher up people. You're starting to see how I feel about this. Anyway, WhatsApp, Signal, Element, OPTF or Session, Threema, Viber, and Wire, and when I mean WhatsApp, it's also Meta as a whole, have also expressed concerns regarding the bill in an open letter dated April 17, 2023. The letter is addressed to anyone who cares about safety and privacy on the internet. And this is also a very interesting letter because it also exposes some of the things that I've talked about regarding Ofcom had way too many powers. And I'll read you a couple of quotes from it, not too much. It's a quite comprehensive letter. I'll put some of the excerpts from the screen right now, and if you want to read these. If not, I'll put a link in the description. Click on it, read the whole thing. It's a quick read. The bill provides no explicit protection for encryption, and if implemented as written, could empower Ofcom to try to force the proactive scanning of private messages on end-to-end encrypted communication services, nullifying the purpose of end-to-end encryption as a result and compromising the privacy of all users. We aren't the only ones who share concerns about the UK bill. The United Nations have warned that the UK government's efforts to impose backdoor requirements constitute a paradigm shift that raises a host of serious problems with potentially dire consequences. Even the UK government itself has acknowledged the privacy risk that the text of the bill poses, but has said that its intentions isn't for the bill to be interpreted this way. Well, maybe you should have put the details in the bill rather than leave it for interpretation. But I think, as far as I know, that's how laws are supposed to be. Open for interpretation. There cannot be a British internet, or a version of end-to-end encryption that is specific to the United Kingdom. And I just want you to think out there. There cannot be a British internet. Think about that. Why are we enforcing these type of things? It's absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. I'll get into that in a moment. Even Wikipedia has commented on this, saying that it can't comply with some of the requirements of the bill. Rebecca Mackinton of the Wikimedia Foundation, which supports the website, also says that this will violate our commitment to protect minimal data about readers and contributors. And then she said the Wikimedia Foundations will not be verifying the age of the UK readers or contributors. I just want to also, speaking of UK readers and contributors, this is an excerpt of the bill that says that companies are not allowed to require documents like passport or identity card or anything like that to verify user date. So they have to use a specific technology to identify the user's age. And also the bill very much specifies it has to be very accurate because it wants to identify groups of ages and content appropriate for groups of ages and so on. And now that we got there, what are my personal opinions? I have said a few little bits here and there, but I have held back a lot. I just want to start with the fact that I agree with all the issues that this bill is trying to tackle. These are very real issues and very serious issues. Of course, I want kids to be protected online. Of course, I want less child porn, or not at all, actually, that would be great, on the internet. I have talked on this very channel in front of you. I have sat here and talked about child exploitation and protecting children and vulnerable individuals online. And as I said before, these issues need to be tackled at the legislation level. I will also want to note the fact that private companies, like social media companies, definitely do have a duty on what is being hosted on their own platforms. Right now, there is little done to protect these users or creators, especially children creators. I'm very, very annoyed about that. Where my problem lies here is privacy and the technology behind this age verification and the technology behind this end-to-end encryption breach, not weakening. They don't really know what they're saying actually, because all of the statements that I've read, they're statements from news articles, from the BBC, from news articles and so on. This is the government saying all of these things. I have not come up with it. They have, not me. The bill is, in my opinion, a massive threat to personal privacy. Privacy is about giving the least amount of data to a company and having the least amount of exposure online. is being able to have private conversation and being able to minimize the level of exposure online. How is this going to happen when Ofcom will demand companies to verify a user's age? How can we maintain privacy or increase privacy with all this technology requesting more and more data? Also, what technologies will there be used for this age verification? Because apparently our IDs are not supposed to go to these private companies to verify our ages. But also, what technologies are they gonna use? And also, how will end-to-end encryption actually work when the bill imposes content scanning, including user-to-user communication? So, messages. That's all I'm saying. In my opinion, there is no way to keep on increasing privacy while analyzing more and more data about the users on the internet. You and me included. I don't have anything, absolutely anything to hide, but I don't want the UK government to see all the messages that I send, all the photos that I have on my phone, or to scan anything on my phone for that matter. Like, just the fact that I pay Homescapes an hour a day is none of UK government's job or business for that matter. As Silke Carlo, the director of Big Brother Watch, said, we need more actions based on the immense amount of data we already have, not to increase the amount of data that the UK government has on us already. This bill does not include any law enforcement improvement. It just forces private companies to sweep under the rug any illegal content found on their platforms. Do I agree with the fact that any illegal content should not be on those platforms? Of course I agree, of course. But I would like not that to be done at the expense of our privacy in this country. This bill forces private companies to ignore any problems or infractions that might be happening on their very own platforms. But let's all be honest, if it's not there, if we can't find it, if somebody removed it, if the company removed it, there's nothing to investigate, right? But also, how are we supposed to catch these people if you are telling companies to just remove the content, block the people off the social media accounts? Don't get me wrong, I fully agree. Some people, they need their phones taken away from them. Fully agree with that. But this shouldn't be the way that is supposed to be done. Not at our privacy expense. I don't agree with that. As you can see, I'm like infuriated by this. Like, I'm trembling of anger and fury for what this bill is trying to happen. But I'm also very scared. I live in a country that offers so many liberties that has enabled me to be where I am today, to speak to you right now, to have the devices that I'm speaking in front of right now. I love living here. But that does not mean that the UK government, or for that matter, any of the other governments in the world, should have the right to harvest more and more of our data. And I encourage you to think about that. To think about the privacy that we lose by having this UK government harvesting all this data on me. I know it's hilarious because I'm technically on YouTube right now and YouTube is a private company that is in UK, but here we are, we live in a capitalistic world. I started this YouTube channel to spread awareness of the widespread dangers that we face online and the dangers of our privacy, and this bill goes against a lot of the things that I stand for. My only hope is that Ofcom will make sensible choices with the standards that they will set once the bill fully passes and becomes law. I'm angry, sad, and extremely disappointed by this bill. I'm getting a headache. This video required a very lengthy process. I pretty much went through the entire bill. So if you like this video, please like this video, comment down below what you think about it, And how do you think our life is going to change living in this wild country now? And if you want to support me to make more videos like this, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep your digital world secure. Remember that staying informed and adopting best practices is crucial to maintaining strong security measures. Stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll see you next time with more cybersecurity topics. Bye!